Hi, Catherine here with Circle Art Designs. Today we will be working on the last project for the June Bargain Bead Box. This is a bracelet I call Sunrise Glory. Look at the colors in that picture. Doesn't that remind you of a beautiful sunrise, especially in the summer with the flowers all around? Well, this is a 3-strand bracelet we will be working on today, so let's get started. Now we will be using beads that we have used in previous projects. These are all the little leftover beads I had. I want you to know I made 3 different Sunrise Glory bracelets from my leftover beads. For in these beads, we will have our 6mm cracked agate in pink. We will be using the English cut faceted round beads in goldenrod AB. We will also be using these beautiful 8mm crystal faceted crackled round beads, the ones in magenta, in teal, and in amethyst. Add to this some chain from your own stash and some spacer beads. I will be using some 3mm in gold and in silver. So gather up the things you have in similar colors or the beads you have left over, and let's make a bracelet. I will be using my bead along thread in the fine gold and the number 1 crimps. I will also be using 2 of your wire guards. You do not have to use wire guards, but I like them because they protect the wire. The bracelet on top is the one we will be putting together this morning. It will be in the shop, as well as one in silver. When I begin, I always leave the wire on the spool to put my first beading wire and crimp on. So taking your beading wire still on the spool, pick up one of your crimps and go ahead and put it on the beading wire. Next, we're going to go ahead and put on our wire guard. A wire guard will have 2 little tubes on either end of a U-shape curve. Putting the curve down, go ahead and run the beading wire up through one of the tubes, over the top of the U, and down through the other tube. Okay, I could say putting the wire guard with the hoop up. I think of it as turning the U on its head. Now then, once you get that done, run your end through the crimp so that you have 2 wires going through that crimp, and pull the crimp up towards the the wire guard. Now we're going to use our crimping tool. The crimping tool has 2 circles on it, a large one at the back, a small one at the front. Holding your crimp in the large circle at the back, mash your handles. If you've done this correctly, you will have an M with a wire coming out on either side of that M. Now, turning your tool horizontally, where before it was vertical, you're going to mash the crimp in the small front circle, and this will close up your crimp, and you can clip your wire with confidence. I should say clip your tail with confidence. Okay, so now it's time for us to measure out our fine beading wire that we're using. To do this, I took 7 inches, which was my bracelet size. It's going to waste a little wire, but that's okay. And then I added 2.5 inches to it to make sure I had plenty to pull down. And go ahead and clip with your wire cutters. And now it's a matter of just putting on the pattern you've laid out on your bracelet board. So Sunrise Glory is made up of your 6mm crackle agate faceted round beads in pink. So we're going to call these our agate in pink. Agate in pink, a silver spacer. Agate in pink, I'm sorry, a gold spacer. I got silver and gold on the brain. Must be almost Christmas. And then we're going to go on to that English cut faceted round beads in the goldenrod AB. So it will be a English cut, a spacer bead, and an English cut. It should look like this. Now you should go ahead and put on your spacer bead. And the next thing for this one will be our amethyst coated crackled lantern beads. These are 8x7mm beads and we've used them before. So it will be a spacer bead, your amethyst, a spacer bead, and your amethyst, and then another spacer bead. Next we will put on our our 8mm crystal faceted bold cut crackled round beads with a magenta coat. I love these. So this will be your magenta bead, a spacer, your magenta bead, and a spacer. And it should look like this. It really does remind me of sunrise over a beautiful field of flowers. So we ended with our spacer bead. So next we will have another of our cracked lantern beads in teal. So it'll be a cracked lantern bead in teal, a spacer bead, the teal, and a spacer bead. The other teal bead on, would you take a moment and like and leave a comment for this video? And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It really helps the channel. Thank you so much. So this is a really good shot of another bracelet I have laid out to make. I'm going to get 2 identical bracelets out of my leftover beads and then a silver one. So if you want to stop it and write down this pattern, that would be amazing. Now from this point, we're going to just build the pattern backwards so that the next ones that come along will be the goldenrod and then the pink. So I'm speeding this up and I'll meet you on the other side. And there you have it. This will be the middle section for our 3-strand bracelet. Now let's close this off. We're going to put another crimp on here, and then we're going to put on our wire guard. Remember, the loop, the curve goes to the top. The 2 little ends will be up against the beads. So go ahead and run the wire through one side of the tube, around the curve, down through the other side of the tube, and then run it through your crimp so that 2 wires are going through your crimp. Now Go ahead and pull your beading wire down till it brings your crimp and your wire guard up against the bead, and you are ready to crimp with your crimping tool. Make sure you don't get the wire too tight though. It needs to be able to bend. Holding the crimp in the back circle, go ahead and mash it and make sure you get that M shape with a wire on each side of the M. The way to ensure this is do not cross the wires before you crimp. Now do a half a turn and mash it down again so it brings that M together, and your crimp should be perfect. So for the next part of the project, we will be cutting a chain the same length as our beaded section. Make sure you include the wire guards when you measure your chain out. I am using chain from Hobby Lobby. This is a wonderfully heavy, really substantial chain in a gold tone. I tore off the label, so I don't know if it's gold plated or not, but I love the color. So let's measure our chain. I'm really fortunate with this one because it's not soldered together. I can take two of my pliers and holding the loop that I do not want on the chain that I have counted, I'm going to open that loop and then slide off my chain that is the right length and then close the loop. So now we're going to do this one more time. Again, measuring up against that center beaded section, we're going to do another of the lengths of chain for the second set of chains in our 3-strand bracelet. Now, if I am just eyeballing a long length of chain instead of counting each link, what I will do is suspend it on a little needle so that I can make sure they're the same length. So now we're ready to put our necklace all together. We have our two chains, we have our beaded section. I am going to put out 4 or 5 of the medium-sized jump rings, my lobster claw, and my extender. The reason for so many jump rings is because I'm going to double jump ring each end. I love that look. So once you open your jump ring, which is basically holding the slit up on your jump ring between 2 pliers and twisting one wrist to open it, go ahead and put on one of your chains. I know I put on the bead section first. I catch it in just a minute and have to redo it. But put on one of your chain sections, then your beaded section, and then another of your chain sections. And I know I called it a necklace a while ago, but I know it's a bracelet. And now we're going to open up another jump ring, and we're going to slip it through the first chain, the beaded section, and the second chain, and close it. You can do up to 3 in this one section, but I only did 2. Now it can get a little tricky slipping that second jump ring in, but in later bracelets, I remembered I would turn that jump ring down and put it up against the chains and the beaded section so that all those little loops were just gathered right there together, and it would go on real easy. So Now we're going to go ahead and put our 2 loops on the other side. When you're doing this, make sure that you have those chains laid out flat and not twisted, so that one chain, then the beads, then the other chain. Pick them up in that order and then slip your first jump ring onto it, close it, and then your second. And once you're finished with that, we're ready to put on our lobster claw and extender. Just checking to make sure how this is going to look when it lays. Now we can put on our closure. Now I have 4 different sizes in the little round box that I use for jump rings. So I'm going down one size. It's not my smallest. It's next to my smallest. I'm sorry they did not give me numbers. But you can use whatever jump ring you want. Open it. Add it to the 2 rings that you have used as the end of your bracelets. And then we'll put on our lobster claw. Once that lobster claw is on, make sure you get your little jump ring closed really well. No gaps. Now once you have finished, go ahead and lay your piece down on the table one more time and make sure everything is straight and running the correct way. And then using the same size jump ring, we can go ahead and put the extender chain on the other end. Now you might be wondering, why would you want to lay it on the table every time? You've checked it out. Well, remember, these 3 strands are on jump rings, and it is very easy for them to move around that jump ring and get 2 chains on one side and the bead on the other side, or twisted. You know, there's all kinds of things that can happen. That's the risk you run with this type of bracelet. The beauty of this bracelet is when it lays, instead of being on a bar where the layers, they have to be right on top of each other, this has the freedom to move around like it was 3 separate bracelets. And but with that, you have to be very careful when you're getting your end things on. I hope that made sense. When you use 2 bracelet bars, you are putting each bracelet on a separate ring, and it's pretty much where it's going to be. But when you use jump rings, they have the ability to move around on the jump ring, and it gives it a more fluid look. Some people like it, some people don't. I like it both ways. You will find me checking this a lot. But go ahead, once you're really sure that everything is in the right order and nothing is twisted, and open up that smaller jump ring and get your extender on. You cannot be too careful when you are making one of these, but they are really a joy to wear. Now, isn't that lovely? Thank you so much for joining me on this final project for the June Bargain Bead Box. This bracelet and the silver one will be in our shop, and I will put the links below. I hope you have a wonderful day and a great beading week. Catherine, circleartdesigns.square.site.